What's up, Kids Jam? This is Mr. Luke, and I'm coming to you from my house, which is fantastic. I'm sure you guys are watching this at your house. I think we may be coming to the close on this quarantine thing, and even the thought of it makes me excited. But we're going to get back and see you guys pretty soon. We're still going to be teaching you video lessons for the time being, and today we're going to start with Jeremiah 1:5. If you got a Bible, grab it. If you don't, I'm going to read it anyway. So, Jeremiah 1:5, God said, "Before I made you in your mom's belly, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you, and I ordained you a prophet to the nations." God was really talking to Jeremiah there directly, but this promise is good for you as well. And why is it good for you? Well, because God wrote every promise, and He wrote them to you. So, let's look at a couple of things that I know are going to excite you. First of all, take a look at this stool. What in the world is this stool doing here? This stool, we're going to pretend, is the place you were born. No, not the hospital you were born at. The place in, like, all of it. Like, the time of history you were born, and the family that you were born into, and your friends, and the all the details of what you were born. That's kind of like the place, right? Well, guess what God said about that place? He said, before you were even born, He knew you. What did He know about you? I know. If He knew you, then He loved you. And before you even arrived in that spot, He put His love there so that when you got there, look what's there, His love. That's awesome. Guess what? He knew you were going to make mistakes. He knew you were going to do some things that were not really smart. And He knew you were going to do some things that were really spectacular. And He loved you for all of it. And sometimes we can think, man, why did I just do that? That was not very smart. God, there's no way God can love me. And God says, no, that's not true. I loved you before you were born, and I knew you were going to do that. So that should be pretty encouraging. Here's another thing that I think is cool. He said, before you were born, I sanctified you. Sanctified is a really big word, and it kind of means set apart. Now, sometimes we can feel like we're set aside, and that means that we're dismissed or useless. That's not it at all. Sanctified doesn't mean set aside. Sanctified means set apart. To set something apart means you have designed it for a purpose and you don't want it to be used for any other purpose. You want it to be used for that purpose. So here's what I want to tell you. Don't misuse your purpose. You need to find out why God made you and use yourself for that purpose. And right now that purpose is you dedicate yourself to the school you're in. You be kind to the people around you. You love God, but there's a much bigger purpose. And it's pretty awesome. And you're going to discover that. What is a purpose? A purpose is a reason for you being born. And it answers the question, why am I here? Guess what? God did not invent His reason for bringing you on this planet after you arrived. Like, yeah? Here's a baby. And God's like, oh my gosh, somebody think of something to do. Nope, that's not what happened. God knew you were coming. He knew why He made you, and He designed it, and He wrote it down so that when you got there, boom, you land in that purpose. Now, there's a couple things that are really important to know. But before we get to that, I'm going to tell you about Harriet Tubman. Now, Harriet Tubman was born into slavery in the 1800s. This was a really bad time to be born, a very dangerous time for a human being to be born, an especially bad time for a black female to live in history. And that was her place to be born. She could not have been in a more dangerous situation. But Harriet Tubman used that platform in three different ways that we can today that will make a huge difference. First of all, she realized that she didn't have another option except to pray. And so this stool, this place makes a great place to pray. And we can do that every day. We can just sit and we can pray to God. The next thing we can do, and I know you're not going to be seeing my head here. Hello. This is another thing we can do. We can sit and rest in God's promise. It doesn't mean that we're not busy, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we're physically sitting. It just means that we're resting, we're at rest in the promises that God has made us. And the third thing is, Harriet Tubman used her place as a platform to stand higher, reach higher, and dream bigger so that she could do more for God than anyone ever imagined. And she sure did. Harriet Tubman was responsible for freeing 70 slaves using the Underground Railroad that she discovered. And all she said was, I would pray, I would listen to God, and I would do what He told me to do. She was courageous, she followed God's voice, and you can be courageous and you can follow God's voice. I want to close with this quote from Harriet Tubman. She said this, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer. You are a dreamer. Always remember," she said, "you have within you," this is you, "the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and change the world." So there's 3 words that I want you to know. Pray, rest in God's promise, and dream big. Have a great day, boys and girls. We will see you soon.